Hello and welcome to this NEP for algebraic manipulation. So that's notes, examples and practice questions for algebraic manipulation. So that's your title, so grab your folders, notes, books, notepads and get that title down, and then we are going to look at the notes. So notes for today starts with algebraic manipulation involves simplifying algebraic fractions, adding and subtracting algebraic fractions with x on the bottom, and multiplying and dividing algebraic fractions. So what we're doing is we are applying our knowledge of fractions to algebra. So we're starting with simplifying, and then adding and subtracting, and then multiplying and dividing. So all of our knowledge of actual fractions is going to come in really important. And then we have our little blue box here, which says always factorise everything you can first. So we are also going to be consolidating and practicing our factorising, which is a really, really important part of this topic. So they're the notes. Once you've written those down, then what we want is another little subheading for examples. So we've done notes, and then we're going to do examples. Could you please write down for me example number 1, simplify. And we have all of that there. Okay, so remember, the very first thing we have to do is we have to factorise everything that we can first. So I'm then going to look at this and I'm going to factorise. Now, the top won't factorise because that is already as simple as it can, but the bottom is actually a quadratic in here. So we need double brackets, we're adding to +6 and we're multiplying to +9. So that stays on the top, like so. The 4 stays on the outside. And now this is a double bracket, multiply to 9, so that's 1 and 9, or 3 and 3. They add to 6, so x plus 3 in that double bracket. So that has to be the very, very first thing that I do. Once I've done that, I can start to think about simplifying on the top and the bottom. So actually what I've got multiplied together, because I've got this exact same bracket on the top and the bottom, I can simplify that. And I can also simplify by numbers. So 8 divided by 4, they both divide by 4, so 1 and 2 up there. So what that leaves us with on the top is 2, the bracket's gone, and then on the bottom we've got 1, so we don't need to write that, and then x plus 3. And then that bracket's gone as well. So that is in fact our answer. So that is simplifying and dividing. So always factorise first. Number 2, write as a single fraction, and we have this fraction here. Now, when we are adding fractions, what we need is a common denominator. Okay. Now in this case, what we're going to do is we are going to multiply the denominators together, and that is going to give me my common denominator. Okay, so if we're multiplying these together on the bottom, we need to times this by x minus 2 and all of this by x plus 3, like in normal fractions. So what that gives us is 5 times x minus 2 plus 3 times x plus 3 all over x plus 3, x minus 2. So imagine I had a half plus a third. I'd times this side by 3 and this side by 2, and so I'd have 1 times 3 plus 1 times 2 all over 2 times 3, which is 6. So I've done exactly the same. Then I'm going to simplify the top, so I'm going to expand this. And then I can simplify on the top as well. So I've got x's, so I've got 5x plus 3x. And then I've got numbers minus 10 plus 9. So that will leave me with 8x minus 1 over x plus 3, x minus 2. And I'm just checking here that that top doesn't factorise, because otherwise I could simplify that further. Okay, so that is done because it doesn't simplify any further, and that is my answer. And adding and subtracting are actually the hardest versions of these types of questions, so that's the tricky one. But we want to make sure we're just applying our regular fractions knowledge. Number 3, write as a single fraction, and now we are timesing. Now remember, the first thing we always want to do is we want to see if we can factorise first, and it's really important we do this first every time. So that won't factorise, that won't factorise, that won't factorise, but this actually will, because these both divide by 2. So f plus 2 stays the same, and then we can put 2 on the outside, and that's f plus 2 on the inside. Now there's 2 options for this here. The first option is to just proceed with the multiplication. So all we do is we times the top by the top and the bottom by the bottom. So I have 12 f plus 2 over 6 times 2 is 12 f plus 2. And I'm not going to expand the brackets, because remember, we want things as simple as possible. We want things to be factorised, and there's nothing to add or subtract. And now actually what I can see is that will cancel down with this, and actually the numbers cancel down as well. So that leaves me with an answer of just 1. So that's my answer. Now my alternative over here, so or once we get to this stage, some of you will prefer this. Once we get to this stage, we can actually cancel down here. So we can cancel, for example, the f plus 2 and f plus 2 here. So when we're timesing, we're allowed to cancel the top or the bottom. Then I can cancel 12 and the 2, so that's 1 and 6. And actually then I can go one more and I can go 6 and 6. Now that's a bit confusing, because what am I left with? Well, I'm left with 1, which is my answer. So I would probably advocate this method. But if you like cancelling first, that's absolutely fine. So we have done 3 types of question there. Now what we need is we need a summary, as always. So our summary, always look to factorise first. So that's always the first thing we're going to do. And then what else is in our summary? So what we need to do is you can only cancel if things are connected by timesing. So we couldn't, for example, cancel that f and that f. That's not allowed, because they are connected with adding, but what we can do is we can do the whole thing. So you can only cancel if things are connected by times, and the crucial thing for this is to remember your normal fraction rules. Okay, whether that's a common denominator or dividing fractions or whatever. So that is our key summary box. So make sure you've got that written down nice and neatly, put some colour around it, make it nice and clear, and then we're going to move on to the practice questions. Okay, so here we have the practice questions. I suggest you do these somewhere separately on a piece of paper or in a workbook maybe. Keep them separate from your notes, because your notes are nice and clear and neat, okay? Have a go at these. If you're stuck, you can come back to the video or get in touch, ask for help. But have a go on your own first. Okay, question number 1. We are simplifying this algebraic fraction. Now remember, the very first thing we want to do is we want to try and factorise if we can. And actually what we have here is we have 2 quadratics. So to both of them. Now multiplied to 3 is 1 and 3. So that top one is a, and they add to 4, plus 3, a plus 1. Now on the bottom we're looking to make minus 21. So minus 1 and 21, minus 3 and 7, minus 7 and 3, and minus 21 and 1. And I'm always listing all of those, and then I'm looking for what adds to minus 4, and that's these ones here. So crucially, it's got to be minus 7 plus 3. So therefore we have A, because it's a double bracket, here and here, and it's minus 7 plus 3. So that's the very first thing we do. And now I'm looking, can I cancel? So I can't cancel down A's and A's. I can't do that and that, or 3's and 3's, because they're connected with adding. But what I can do is I can do all of that bracket and all of that bracket. So on the top I'm left with A plus 1, and on the bottom A minus 7. That's my answer. B, write as a single fraction. Okay, now we have two options again for this one. We want a common denominator, nothing factorises first. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cross multiply like this here for adding fractions. So timesing that by 4y, and that by 3y, and timesing the bottom together. So I have 4 times 2 is 8x and a y, minus, because it's a minus in here, 3xy over 3 times 4, 12, y times y, y squared. Now I can simplify this top bit, so they are like terms, so 5xy over 12y squared, and then I can actually simplify here, so I can take away 1y and that 1y up there, so 5x over 12y is my answer. I can't simplify any further. Now your other option, which is a slightly more elegant solution, is to recognise that actually the common denominator for these two is 12y, because the y appears in both sections. So that means we're looking for over 12y. So this only needs to be times by 4, and that only needs to be times by 3. So we have 8x minus 3x, which equals 5x over 12y. Same answer. And that is our answer there. Okay, number C, write as a single fraction. Okay, I'm going to have to do some factorising here. So I'm looking at that, and straight away I can see that that is going to factorise. It's a quadratic again, so I'm multiplying to 2, so that's 1 and 2, which does add to 3. So this is y plus 1, y plus 2 over y, times by 4y over, and I'm going to write that out like this actually, that's y plus 1, y plus 1, so that square means it happens twice. And now what I'm going to do is, before simplifying, I'm simply going to multiply. So we multiply the top by the top, so 4y times by this over the bottom, which is y times by all of the bottom there. And now I've got there, I can simplify. So these will cancel down. Remember, they're multiplied together, so that's fine. And then actually we can take that y and that y there. So we're left with 4y plus 2 over y plus 1. And you'd get the same answer if you cancel down up here. So you could cancel that and that, that and that, and you'd get the same answer. There you go. Okay, brilliant work. If you've got that far, checked your answers, well done. There's plenty more of these available at www.stutchfield.com, and they are the NEPs. So if you want more practice questions, head there. There's plenty to do.